Good evening. Here's what you can expect on NTV tonight.
Tonight, Joe Sang ends a controversial tenure at the Kenya Pipeline Company, as the board invites DCI to plug the leaks in the 2.3 billion shillings missing fuel case. Also ahead,
I have noted with deep concern the plight of Nairobi residents as a result of the ban.
Nairobi County's big U-turn. High Court also pumps the brakes on decongestion plan. And also tonight,
yule Sifuna ambaye anaona sisi atatutisha, mwambie sisi si watu wa kutishwa.
Kama mimi siwezi kupeana mkono kule juu, lakini hapa chini kuna hasla mwenzangu nami ninamkumbatia.
Party discipline is paramount.
Why ODM has no love for two renegade MPs. And a man in Mombasa is charged with deliberately infecting lover with HIV.
NTV Tonight with Olive Burrows.
Remember, you can also watch this news bulletin live on ntv.co.ke/live and also using the NTV Kenya handle on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter. Our sign language interpreter tonight is David Agondoa. The Kenya Pipeline Company has resolved not to renew the tenure of the CEO, Joe Sang, as multiple investigations into corruption allegations take shape. The company's board also invited the Directorate of Criminal Investigations to look into misproprieties associated with the state body. But even as the DCI is called in to launch these investigations, the National Assembly's Public Investments Committee wants the management of the KPC to appear before them next week to answer to questions on the Mombasa-Nairobi pipeline, otherwise known as Lane 5, where a special audit has revealed billions of money was lost.
After a series of public meetings where the CEO Joe Sang wore a brave face, insisting everything was on course, it appears Kenya Pipeline Company can no longer sustain the charade that all is well. In a statement to newsrooms, the KPC board announced Sang will not be seeking a second term at the helm of the pipeline body due to personal reasons. The board also stated that it has sanctioned investigations over certain corruption allegations. Appearing before the Energy Committee, oil marketers wanted the committee's help in unlocking a stalemate, pitting the pipeline and themselves.
On the 5th of July, we received a letter from KPC. It basically stated that they have been a loss of 11.6 million litres over a 2-year period due to vandalism and accidental spillages of the main line.
Oil marketers want a special audit, and now the KPC board has handed it to them, but it has to be done before December 31st.
KPC is a custodian of the stocks, and they have a very heavy responsibility because of the value of the commodity that they handle. And we basically rejected their proposal to charge the stolen or lost product to the OMCs in totality.
The marketers also want the committee to sort out the mess at the country's airports, where they believe oil cartels have taken over and are denying them business.
In the last 1 year, we've seen prices given by brokers in tenders at the airport as low as 9. Now, so we are asking ourselves, those prices as low as 9, you can't even recover the cost of the product by the time it reaches Mombasa. So we are asking ourselves, in what business are these brokers involved in, or how are they doing their business that they are able to make money in that environment?
Could they be using money from out there to launder it back into the country? Those are questions we should use. Number 2, is the security at the hydrant proved that before these vessels are loaded with fuel, they take meter reading with secure meter reading before loading into the vessel and after.
At the same time, the Parliamentary Public Investments Committee, tasked with checking on government body spending, wants to look into the KPC's spending on the pipeline from Mombasa to Nairobi.
There was an initial demand of $38 million on top of that by the contractor, where KPC has gone and paid an extra $14 million over and above the contract sum.
There was a repetitive
variations which has been done over the years, particularly on the way the variations was done, and 5 of the variations were as a result of inability and technical evaluation done by the KPC.
The committee also wants to know why an arbiter was hurriedly called to arbitrate the matter and agreed on a sum of about $44 million as fees. The committee believes the prices quoted were exorbitant and there was theft. Kennedy Muredhi, NTV.
The High Court has issued temporary orders lifting the ban barring public service vehicles from accessing the city. The order was issued following an application by businessman Paul Kobia, who is seeking a declaration from the court that the ban is unconstitutional. The businessman pointed out that the county government had failed to give timelines for their suspension, which gives freedom to the county to reenact the ban at will. This even as normalcy resumed on the city roads.
The nightmare that was the traffic situation in Nairobi on Monday for commuters and private motorists will long be remembered. But this morning, while Kenyans anticipated the stressful morning that was witnessed yesterday, it was to the delight of many quite the opposite.
Kutembea ilikuwa straining sana, unapata watu walikuwa na challenge, na si vizuri muso kwa sababu ya watu wenye pia wako na as in wako differently able.
Ni poa mtu afanye exercise, lakini pali ilitufikia jana si poa kabisa. Juu tumeumia.
Traffic was moving smoothly. The presence of police officers on the roads, largely about, had been lifted. All this because of an order from the office of the governor.
I have noted with deep concern the plight of Nairobi residents as a result of the ban, and hereby announce that the full implementation of this directive has been suspended with immediate effect.
Kwa just Nairobi tumempatia memorandum, tumesign memorandum na ametupatia ultimatum ya 3 months. After 3 months kama hatujarekebisha hizo makosa zetu, nadhani tutakuwa tumeambia Nairobi bye bye.
Members of the public, though recognizing the need to decongest the city, say the county government acted without consulting those who are the most affected party.
Most of Kenyans we are casual workers. Sio kila mtu ako kwa payroll. Unaona? Unapata mtu unafanya job unapewa 500 per day. Unafika kwa barabara matatu inakuitisha 200 fare. Ukienda na kurudi unapata uje save anything.
But even after his declaration, the court, which had yesterday refused to suspend the ban following a petition filed by Nairobi Senator Johnson Sakaja, today issued its suspension, directing the applicant Paul Kobia to serve the governor with a notice. Kobia is seeking a permanent injunction that prevents the county from implementing the decision in future. In his application, Kobia cites a lack of proper infrastructure in place to support the ban, and also that the ban failed to involve relevant stakeholders and the public. The matter is expected to be brought before court on the 11th of December 2018. Charity Mwangi, NTV.
The latest attempt to decongest the city of Nairobi by the county government failed, just as was the case in previous instances when measures to streamline traffic in the central business district turned the city upside down. The current occupant at City Hall was on the other side of this battle just under 2 years ago when the Evans Kidero-led government revoked PSV parking licenses in the city centre. Senator Mike Sonko, who went to court to block the order as he was then, citing lack of sector player involvement, finds himself in a similar situation this week, with the now Senator Johnson Sakaja having taken him to court over similar differences.
The aspiration for a Nairobi city free of traffic congestion has been long in the making, and it appears there is no end in sight for the millions of city residents who have to bear the brunt of a policy which many experts think is ill thought of.
The law must be kept. No overlapping, no parking on the road.
In its latest plan to keep public service vehicles away from the center of the city, many residents have found themselves in a position where they have had to walk more than a kilometer to get to their destination.
From Mudhurwa, Mr. Chair, into the city center, it's just a walking distance. 1 minute walk. So many people don't go to the gym. It's part of exercise.
So you cannot just come and, today do this knee-jerk reaction, tomorrow tell Matatus only 2 will come. It just shows lack of planning. This idea was not well thought out, and the person suffering is the Mwananchi.
The battle between the senator and governor is repeating itself, with current Senator Johnson Sakaja accusing Governor Sonko of committing the same sin he himself accused former Governor Evans Kidero of committing when he took him to court.
The issue of going to court, that is what we call kipindire, because the senator wants to be the governor. I used to do that when I was the senator. Anything that was raised by my predecessor, I used to rush to court. But it won't help us.
The only way to know the true measure of a person is to give them power. That's the only way. You know the true measure of a person. And we're not doing it for similar reasons. I'm not looking to vie for any position. And I've been saying, and I'm on record, that all these campaigns people are doing are premature, even for the presidency.
Projects to place drums that blocked off major roundabouts in the city were not well received, with many citing lack of proper planning.
It is stated that we review our strategy. We are not, let me repeat, we are not abandoning the decongestion program.
And when Kidero banned matatus from accessing the CBD, the then Senator Sonko, a stakeholder in the matatu industry, went to court to bar this from happening, forcing the county government to retreat. The situation is no different this time around.
My brother Sakaja, we campaigned together. He's supposed to be part and solution to this problem we are facing in Nairobi. Any city in the world has a transport system. These public participations, we've been holding these participations for years now.
We are voted in by the same Mwananchi, and Mwananchi wants to see us being able to move together. But importantly for today, the people of Nairobi feel very betrayed. So let's keep the politics aside, let's talk structurally. What is the plan for transport in this city?
Leila Mohammed, NTV.
Meanwhile, the Director of Public Prosecutions, Nuruddin Haji, has appointed Queen's Counsel Kawa Qureshi to lead corruption cases against judicial and government officials. Haji said he picked the London-based professor through single sourcing after he fails to find a suitable candidate through advertisement. He says a private prosecutor will inject confidence, particularly in such cases of high importance. Professor Kawar has taught commercial law at Cambridge University and Public International Law at King's College London. Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu is among high-ranking judicial officers facing graft charges in court. High Court Judge Hedwig Ongudi has maintained her earlier decision to give National Lands Commission Chair Muhammad Swazuri unconditional access to his office as the corruption case he faces carries on. The judge disallowed an application by the Director of Public Prosecutions requesting the court to allow a decision by the Anti-Corruption Magistrate Court to lock Swazuri out of his office as it appeals against the High Court decision. The Anti-Corruption Magistrates Court had released Swazuri on bail with tough conditions that required him to seek permission from the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission and the CEO of the commission before accessing his office. However, the High Court judge quashed the decision, terming it as a move to try and remove Swazuri out of office from the back door. Swazuri is facing charges in connection with fraudulent standard gauge railway land compensation worth 222 million shillings.
Criminal case number 1128 of 20. I was called by Mr. Ariel.
Thank you, man.
In a statement this evening, the Director of Public Prosecution says he will challenge today's ruling at the Court of Appeal, especially what he refers to as discrimination under Section 62(5) and 6 of the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act, which allows immediate suspension of public officers, whereas state officers can continue to serve irrespective of criminal charges against them. You should brace yourself for tougher economic times ahead due to lack of money in the economy. This is according to economists who say that the living standard in the country may worsen as a result of some of the poor financial decisions made by the government, such as overborrowing, wastage and corruption. And as NTV's Silas Apollo reports, the warnings come as businesses and banks say they are likely to significantly shrink their revenues this year. Auctioneers have also been knocking on the doors of loan defaulters.
For most Kenyans, 2018 can be described as one of the toughest years economically. Businesses suffered losses due to what some observers link to the prolonged election period as companies laid off staff to stay afloat. The government also raised taxes on fuel, leading to an increase in the price of food and other household items. Some economists now believe that this state of affairs may continue for a while. Tony Watima, an independent economist based in Nairobi, says that the country's current economic problems could be linked to poor financial decisions by the government.
We are risking getting into a recession because we have not handled our economy the way it's supposed to be. Because one of the main things is that government has borrowed a lot, foreign debt, then locally it has also borrowed a lot.
While the government's increasing appetite for expensive commercial loan has been in no doubt, some economists are now linking the country's current economic situation to poor decisions like corruption, wastage, and even physical decisions like the capping of interest rates. Watima argues that the current situation is something that most economists had predicted, but which nobody, including the government, was willing to admit.
This thing has nothing to do with the election. It has to do with the mismanagement of our economy. So for around 3 years, we've mismanaged our economy. Look at piling of debts, look at in terms of credit, there's little credit that is flowing. There is a lot of corruption, a lot of wastage. So it's catching up with us.
For the common citizen, Watima says the situation may not improve soon, and all that one can do is tighten their belts or better still, reduce their spending to the bare minimum.
My prediction will be that things will continue being tougher because we are yet to see Treasury admitting that there is a problem within the economy. So the dynamics of that is that you continue having the same problem, but you don't have a recovery plan.
Some companies like Bamburi Cement, Kenya Power, Samia Africa, and Housing Finance have already issued profit warnings due to what they term as a tough business environment. Auctioneers have also been knocking on the doors of loan defaulters if some of the adverts running in the country's largest paper, the Daily Nation, are anything to go by. The adverts call for auction of land, houses, motor vehicles and other properties of defaulters. For the first 9 months of the year, the value of non-performing loan in banks increased by about 66 billion shillings. Silas Apollo, NTV.
A man in Mishomoroni within Mombasa County has been charged with deliberately transmitting HIV and AIDS to another person, contrary to the Sexual Offence Act. The charges read that the suspect willfully and intentionally had sexual intercourse with the complainant, knowing very well that he was infected with the disease. The case is set to be heard on December 20th, 2018.
The Sexual Offences Act Amendment Bill 2016 provides that, and I quote, where a person is convicted of any offence under this act and it is proved that at the time of the commission of the offence, the convicted person was infected with HIV or any other life-threatening sexually transmitted disease, whether or not he or she was aware of his or her infection, notwithstanding any other sentence in this act, he or she shall be liable upon conviction to imprisonment for a term of not less than 15 years, but which may be enhanced to imprisonment for life. End of quote. This is the eventuality that Bernard Otieno must seriously contemplate, as it may end up being his reality. The resident in Mishomoroni, Mombasa County, was charged with willfully and intentionally having sexual intercourse with the complainant on November 17th, knowing very well that he was infected with HIV. The accused, however, denied the offence. Appearing before Shanzu Senior Principal Magistrate Diana Mochache, Otieno was slapped with a 500,000 shilling bond with one surety of a similar amount. In November, National Assembly Majority Leader Aden Duale proposed amendments to the Njoki Ndongo laws to add castration as a punishment for sex offenders. That, however, did not go through, as it is yet to come up again in the National Assembly. Similarly, Senate Speaker Kenneth Lusaka also asked Parliament to come up with tough proposals suggesting an overhaul of the Sexual Offences Act. Lusaka suggested that stringent laws be adopted to serve as a deterrent to others. Mel Miendo, NTV.
We take a break, but first our question of the night. And our poll question is, do you think matatus are responsible for the congestion that we witness in the CBD? Do you think that matatus are responsible for the congestion that we see in the CBD? Send your thoughts to the SMS number 20686. That number is toll-free, and again, it's 20686. You can also tweet us. Already we have tweets we'll be reading later on at NTV Kenya. And start your answer with yes, and please include your name and your location. On that note, let's take a break. Thank you for staying with NTV Tonight. Just before we went on the break, I shared our opinion count question, which is, do you think matatus are responsible for the congestion in the CBD? Do you think matatus are responsible for the congestion in the CBD? Send your thoughts to the SMS number 20686. That is a toll-free number. You can also tweet us on NTV at NTV Kenya. Already your thoughts are coming through, and at 111 the man asks, is this supposed to be a trick question? No, it's not. Grief engulfed Shakom village in Kiserian location after the body of a child thought to be about 6 years old was found in a sack. The child was killed in unclear circumstances. According to the area residents, this is not the first incident. They say children disappear and are later found dead.
Shakom village in Kajiado is in shock following the bizarre and mysterious murder of a child whose gender is yet to be determined. The child's body was in pieces and had decomposed in such a way that it was hard to identify the age and the sex of the child. According to Joseph Okwaro, it's not the first incident reported in the area, with residents living in fear for their children's lives.
Sasa tunaishi kwa uoga na hofu sana, manake watoto wetu kwenda shuleni wanaenda kwa shida. Pia kurudi nyumbani, huwezi kuwa kila wakati unachunga mtoto akienda shuleni na akirudi. Kwa hivyo hatupati usaidizi ile inastahili.
Residents have also complained of laxity of security personnel in the area even after reporting several incidents.
Watu wanatakikana kuwa protected. Saa hizi hasa wakati huu watoto wamefunga shule, wanafaa wazazi wao wanaenda kuwatafutia na wameondoka majumbani wameenda. Sasa unakuta vijana wamekuja wanakutembea makundi na ni watu suspect, na the officers who are supposed to protect us, jukumu lao tunaona haliendi vizuri.
Na tunakaa tukistuka hata usiku kwa sababu ya vile amani imekosa, hata hatulali.
Kile ambacho kimekuwa shida ni mtoto hauwezi mtuma duka mchana ama usiku, sababu haujui mtoto wako atarudi akiwa hai ama utaitiwa akiwa maiti.
Area OCPD Joseph Mwika confirmed that on Friday 30th 5 p.m. a girl by the name Angel Wangoi was killed in the same manner in the same area. Police have arrested one suspect. He also added they are still investigating the matter. Kaltun Jama, NTV.
The Orange Democratic Movement Party Disciplinary Committee has recommended the expulsion from the party of Malindi Member of Parliament Aisha Jumwa and her Msambweni counterpart Suleiman Dori for gross misconduct. The two leaders are among 7 other members of the County Assembly who have also been recommended for expulsion from the party due to disobeying party decisions, among other violations.
ODM party efforts to tame those termed as rebel members seem to be on course. The party's disciplinary committee, through a report, now wants Malindi Member of Parliament Aisha Jumwa and Msambweni MP Suleiman Dori expelled. The party's National Executive Council meeting held today and attended by ODM party leader Raila Odinga adopted the report, which accuses the duo of gross misconduct.
The disciplinary committee had occasion to weigh all the evidence that was before them and the facts, and they have come up with that recommendation after hearing all the sides.
Yule Sifuna ambaye anaona sisi atatutisha, mwambie sisi si watu wa kutishwa, sisi ni watu wa heshima.
The decision by Aisha and Dori to openly declare their support for the Deputy President William Ruto's 2022 presidential bid has for a while now put the two at loggerheads with the ODM leadership. The two legislators, despite being ODM members, have been attending the Deputy President's public rallies at the coast and drumming support for the second in command. In October, Jumwa and Dori were summoned to appear before the disciplinary committee, but they ignored the summons. In June this year, Jumwa was on record saying she had made her mind to support Ruto for the country's top job, a move that annoyed the ODM leadership.
Siwezi kupeana mkono kule juu, lakini hapa chini kuna hasla mwenzangu nami ninamkumbatia. Mabaya hayo. Si kila mtu huenda kwa saizi yake. Sasa mimi dhambi niloifanya ni ipi?
The disciplinary committee has also recommended the expulsion of 6 members of the Homa Bay County Assembly. That is Dan Ochieng, Evans Dada, Julius Odhiambo, Geoffrey Onyango, Paul Ongoro, and Joshua Okumu, all of them being accused of acts of violence. Joyce Adhiambo of Busia County Assembly is also facing expulsion. The NEC shall invite the members recommended for expulsion to appear before it at a special NEC meeting to be held early next year prior to the final decision being taken. Vincent Odur, NTV.
A family in Lokichogio, Turkana County is appealing for financial aid for their son, who was left with life-threatening injuries in 2017 after he was shot 9 times by a student who was on a revenge mission at Lokichogio Mixed Secondary School. Meshak Lopeyok, whose leg was amputated, needs to undergo another surgery.
Meshak Lopeyok limps as he takes calculated steps assisted by his family. Meshak survived 9 AK-47 rifle bullets pumped into his body by Abraham Lochor from South Sudan, who sprayed bullets on fellow students at Lokichogio Mixed Secondary School. The incident, which occurred in October 2017, left 7 students dead and more than 10 severely injured. Meshak was left with life-threatening injuries and scars that will always remind him of the ordeal. He lost his leg after gunshot wound complications. While many of his peers have opted to move on, a year later, Meshak still bears the pain and agony caused by the attackers. Meshak was then a Form 1 student, but due to his condition, he has never gone back to school.
Mtoto baada anaumia, baada anaumana, na tena bado hajafanyiwa operation.
Siwezi hata kutembea mpaka mahali. Mimi tu ni shida yangu tu ni kukaa tu peke yake.
Hii mguu yote nilifanyia pinch graft hapa yote. Hii yote ni pinch graft nikafanyia huko yote. Sababu ilikuwa ni pupa tupu nje.
He is helpless as a lot of medical attention is required to help him get better again.
Wazazi wangu, wazazi wenye hawajasoma na wao wanafuta ni makaa.
Ndiyo mguu mwingine inahitaji kukatwa.
Angepata hii mguu ya chini plastic leg.
The family is appealing for financial support to enable it to overcome challenges it has gone through since last year. Rozongwei, NTV.
Let's take a look at some of your thoughts. Our opinion count question is, do you think matatus are responsible for the congestion in the CBD? Going on Twitter at Kimani_Viva says, whoever thinks matatus are the cause should seriously look at the populace with personal versus those without the personal cars on our roads and matatus. And if we look at the SMSs, 37% of you say yes, and beyond that, 62% of you say no. Matatus are not responsible for the congestion on our roads. We take this short break, but when we come back, we go through more of your views. Region of the country as it looks to step up reduction on the frequency of power outage. Speaking while groundbreaking the Olkaria 1 Unit 6 power plant on Tuesday afternoon in Naivasha, President Uhuru Kenyatta said the ongoing upgrade of electricity supply infrastructure is on course. He added that he expects change in the business environment of the region, which is the worst affected by power outage in the country. Data from the electricity distributor Kenya Power shows Kenya registered an average of 19,500 outages per month in 2017, a 28% decline from 2016. The Olkaria 1 Unit 6 plant is expected to be completed in February 2021 and will inject an additional 83.3 megawatts to the national grid. The National Treasury has denied claims that it is planning to borrow between 80 to 100 billion shillings in form of a syndicated loan in order to service other maturing debts. During a public participation forum on the financial year 2019-2020 and the mid-term expenditure framework budget, Treasury's Principal Secretary Dr. Kamau Thuge maintained that Kenya's debt position is still sustainable amid growing anxiety over the country's appetite for borrowing.
For this financial year, we do have a loan that is falling due in a syndicated loan that is falling due in April. One is in April, and we have the 5-year tranche of the Eurobond from 2014 is also falling due on June 24th. We are not issuing a bond to retire the syndicated loan. We believe that our debt position remains sustainable. The IMF also believes that our debt is sustainable, and you just need to look at their report, which is in the public domain.
With many sugarcane farmers across the country now disillusioned and trapped in cycles of poverty, sugarcane is now slowly going out of production as millers sink deeper into debt. But the Kenya government seems unwilling to give up. Besides the bailout extended to the millers and the recently constituted National Task Force, the Climate Finance Unit at the National Treasury says it is currently sourcing for funds to turn sugarcane into a climate-resilient crop as it takes steps to climate-proof the economy. In Eldoret, the government says it needs to hasten the removal of non-tariff barriers in the Jua Kali sector if it is to get more youth employed in the industry. This is the view of the Industry, Trade and Cooperatives Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya, who spoke at the opening of the Jua Kali exhibition titled Nguvu Kazi in Eldoret. The exhibition has attracted Jua Kali traders from Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda and Burundi, with the latest entrant into the mix being South Sudan. Lois Wangoi reports.
This year's edition of the Jua Kali Nguvu Kazi exhibition has seen more creatives in the provision of goods and services join the fray, owing to the numerous trade and learning experiences that the joint exhibition offers. South Sudan is the latest regional neighbor to join the initiative. One of the biggest challenges facing various trading blocs in Africa is the existence of legislative barriers.
Kuhakikisha sheria imetengenezwa, inatoa vizingiti na kuhakikisha pia watu wanaweza ku-access hiyo soko.
The event, which is held annually, has over the years created a need for the region to work together in order to harness innovation from the informal sector. Devolved governments also have their role to play if unemployment among the youth is to be effectively tackled.
Sisi wenyewe kwa wenyewe ni soko ya kutosha.
Uasin Gishu County, the host of the forum, is positioning itself to become the region's foremost business hub by taking advantage of its infrastructural advantage, such as an international airport, as well as good rail and road network. Lois Wangoi, NTV Business, Eldoret.
That's it from the business desk. Welcome back. This year's Kenya Certificate of Primary Education exam graduates are the second group the government is targeting in the 100% transition to secondary schools policy. The policy, spearheaded by President Uhuru Kenyatta, is meant to ensure that there is improved access, retention and completion of secondary school education by all learners. But in its first year of implementation, the policy has experienced a number of challenges that have resulted in a number of students dropping out of school. NTV's education reporter Sharon Baranga with the details.
Between the 7th and 11th of January next year, all pupils who sat the 2018 Kenya Certificate of Primary Education examination are expected to have reported to their respective schools. It is the second group the government is targeting in the 100% transition policy.
We'll work with county and sub-county education officials to ensure that no child is locked out of secondary education owing to factors removed from his or her ability to continue with learning. In this regard, ladies and gentlemen, ministry officials will file accurate daily returns on the status of reporting to schools until we attain 100% transition.
The Ministry of Education is in the process of placing over 1 million candidates in secondary schools. This number excludes refugees, adult learners, absentee candidates, private candidates above the age of 18 and inmates, but they will be accommodated as follows. There are 12,045 places available for refugees in Kakuma and Dadaab camps. 356 centers with capacity of 11,500 spaces will cater for adult learners and private candidates above the age of 18. But since the 100% transition policy began to be implemented this year, a number of challenges threatening retention of students in secondary schools have popped up. The Ministry of Education has identified pointers that threaten the success of the policy, and they are teenage pregnancies, early marriages, insecurity, inhibitive cultural practices, indirect costs of secondary education, and extreme poverty in households, especially in arid and semi-arid areas.
I'm directing education officials in all our counties to map out the 2018 KCPE candidates who became mothers in the course of the year and make special arrangements for them to transition to Form 1.
This year, the government effected the free-day secondary school education program in a bid to accommodate more students in schools. Day-wing programs were started in 19 selected schools, and there are plans to expand the program to other schools countrywide. Due to this, funds were set aside to expand existing infrastructure in schools to accommodate the rising number of students transitioning from primary to secondary schools.
I want to sound a clear warning to head teachers to desist from introducing any legal fees and levies. If allowed to take root, illegal levies will frustrate the attainment of the 100% transition and deny learners the right to education.
From January next year, the Ministry of Education will provide 16 billion shillings towards infrastructure improvement for public day secondary schools.
We shall do all that it takes to make sure that you get your resources in good time so that we can start the year in facilitating our students by making sure that we release our capitation in good time.
Teacher shortage is another impediment to achieving 100% transition to secondary schools.
We made a proposal to recruit 12,626 annually for the next 4 years since 2018 at a cost of 8.3 billion.
Even with the teething problems experienced in the first year of free-day secondary education, the government is keen on achieving it.
Safari, we will be asking the chief and the assistant chief why these children have not gone to Form 1.
All Form 1s will be receiving free textbooks of course subjects. Sharon Baranga, NTV.
Brian Otwal on the other side of this break with the sports news.
My name is Brian Otwal. A 7-member oversight board has been gazetted by the Finance Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich to manage the much-awaited Sports, Art and Social Development Fund, which was formerly known as the National Sports Fund. The board, which is made up of 5 principal secretaries from the Ministries of Education, Arts, Health, National Treasury and Sports, who is also the fund's administrator, will be working alongside Athletics Kenya boss Jackson Tuwei and former Vice President Mudia Wori. Among the functions of the board is to develop infrastructure and facilitate the Team Kenya for their national assignments. Federations will be required to be accountable and give full disclosure to the Secretariat, which will monitor the funds to avoid double payment from the fund and then international federations. And world marathon record holder Eliud Kipchoge and steeplechase world record holder Beatrice Chepkoech are favorites to be named as the IAAF Male and Female Athletes of the Year, the annual awards in Monaco tonight. Kipchoge will be up against French decathlete Kevin Mayer and American sprinter Christian Coleman, among others. Chepkoech, on her part, will be hoping to defeat Colombian jumper Catherine Ibaguen, sprinter Shona Miller from Bahamas, and Great Britain sprinter Dina Asher Smith. World 800 meters record holder David Rudisha is the only Kenyan athlete to have won the award in 2010. And the 4th edition of the First Lady Half Marathon will be held on March 10th, 2019 in Nairobi. The race, which had been shelved for the last 2 years, was launched by First Lady Margaret Kenyatta, accompanied by Rachel Ruto and Ida Odinga. The half marathon is part of the First Lady's Beyond Zero campaign that seeks to raise funds for maternal health care. It was launched in 2014 and has helped to provide fully equipped mobile clinics to all 47 counties. Beyond Zero is a flagship program by the First Lady that aims to save lives of mothers and children by preventing unnecessary maternal and child deaths.
I celebrate all the wonderful children here with us today. It's encouraging to see and to acknowledge their special talents. I honestly believe that we will only continue to improve on our work in the years ahead. Our work will require stepping up our joint efforts, rededicating our energies, and building our collective resolve towards a healthier and better future for Kenyans.
And Tusker FC's tactician Robert Matano has been crowned the coach of the month of September-October. The veteran coach picked Tusker in a relegation zone and hosted them to 3rd on the log at the season's conclusion, beating Kariobangi Sharks' William Muluya to bag the coveted monthly award. Tusker won 4 of its 5 matches in the 2 months and registered a draw in the other game. Matano, who joined Tusker from AFC Leopards in April 2018, becomes the 8th recipient of the accolade this year. And Manchester City can go 5 points clear at the top of the Premier League for at least 24 hours with victory at Watford tonight. The Premier League champions lead the table by 2 points, but second-placed Liverpool are not. We have Premier League action tonight. Manchester City seeking to extend the lead at the top of the Premier League. We'll be giving you the results of that in our subsequent bulletins tomorrow.
Okay, and we'll share the results of our poll question tonight, which was, are matatus responsible for the congestion in the CBD online? So visit at NTV Kenya. My name is Olive Burrows. Thank you for keeping it NTV tonight. Our sign language interpreter has been David Agondoa.
Have a lovely night. My name is Brian.